Yeah, I mean, it's been a matter of time in a lot of ways, Murph. I feel like every day this week we've been setting our alarm for 6 a.m. waiting for this story to break, and here it comes, 9 o'clock. This seemed inevitable. Let's take us inside the process. You just got off the phone with a source inside UNC. What do we know?
Yeah, I mean, this has been ongoing, and since the loss to VCU to end the season, that was 3 straight losses, right? They lost to Duke at the end of the regular season, Clemson in their first game of the ACC tournament, and then a collapse against VCU. 19-point lead in the second half, and they blew it. And look, Hubert Davis was on the hot seat coming into this season, given that they were the last team into the tournament the year before. And I think in college basketball today, you've got to be able to buy a roster year after year. Henry Vasar, a great ad last year. Well, guess what? He's going to cost even more this year if you want to keep him on the roster. And so the donors, I think, played a large role in this. When they decide we're not going to give that kind of money, millions, we're talking tens of millions of dollars to build another roster and see it struggle once again, 2 years in a row, losing in the first round of the tournament. That, I think, played a large role. North Carolina wants to be at the top of college basketball, and they just haven't.
And you think about the way this season ended, right? Like, we've been talking about this all year. It feels like, to a certain extent, every big game is a referendum on Hubert Davis, right? And he had saved his job to a lot of extent this season. Like, when you step back from it, it was a really good year until it wasn't. And it begins with the Caleb Wilson injury, which exposes the team. Now, some people, I think, could argue that's a reasonable excuse and a reason. But I think others would argue it exposed Hubert Davis's in-game coaching, and where that peaked is in the NCAA tournament, where he surrenders a 19-point lead, which echoes all the way back to the Kansas national title, where this all begins 5 years ago. So you step back from it, he gets 5 years, which I think speaks to why this process took so long, because he had a long career here, he played here, he coached under Roy Williams, played for Dean Smith, and I think that's a little insight into why the process took so long.
Well, and you saw it in the Hubert Davis quote. He wanted to continue coaching. I think once the season ended and the administration made this decision, I think they went to Hubert and said, how can we make this an easy process? You're a Tar Heel legend. Your uncle played here. You played here. You just outlined all that. And obviously, Hubert Davis wanted to continue coaching this team. Finally, the administration and Bubba Cunningham and Steve Newmark, the outgoing AD and the incoming AD, are the two that made this decision, made the recommendation to Chancellor Lee Roberts, and he agreed with that assessment. Hubert Davis has 4 years left on his contract. He was 125 and 54, so he was successful, not successful enough. He has 4 years left on his contract. He'll be paid out a little bit over $5 million in buyout, and now we'll have to see where North Carolina goes from here.
And where they go from here is hiring a new basketball coach. And I think part of the reason why this process took so long is that UNC was looking at the holistic picture. And I think as we sit here right now, they have a pretty good idea of where they want to go. Now, I've heard some pie in the sky kind of names like Brad Stevens, but I think it's also good to get a little bit realistic. We have some other names on the board here. Jay Wright, former coach, Villanova, is he really going to come back? Billy Donovan, been a long time since he's been in the game. And Murph, I think we have a pretty good idea of who the coaches they're actually going to be looking at here in the next couple days.
Yeah, North Carolina wants to compete at the very highest level, and I think you look at the teams that are already competing at the very highest level. You know, North Carolina is seen in basketball as sort of a Notre Dame job, as is in football, right? Mm-hmm. Even if you've had tremendous success somewhere, you would still leave that job to go to Notre Dame. I think that's how North Carolina kind of sees their job. And so I think names that you may hear in the next coming days, you know, Michigan, Dusty May, they're a 1 seed in the tournament. Arizona, Tommy Lloyd, they're a 1 seed in the tournament. TJ Otzelberger at Iowa State, you see some of the names popping up right now on the screen. Todd Golden is at Florida. His name has come up. I'm not sure that he's a good fit. He had a Title IX investigation while he was at Florida. Yep. He has already won, unlike all those coaches I mentioned, he's actually won a national title. It's really hard to move a title-winning coach. And so that would be one name that I wouldn't put as much stock in maybe as some of the others.
The other thing to think about, too, is the current roster, right? Because the news we broke yesterday was that the meetings with Hubert Davis and the players had been postponed. We obviously know the reason why. So UNC has a lot to figure out here with their staff, with their GM, Jim Tanner, the transfer portal, which opens early on in April. And I can tell you this has been very hard on the players and the families this week. I was told that they were invited over to Hubert Davis's house where they learned the news. So let's send it over back to you guys.
All right, thanks, guys.